I woke up that Tuesday morning with my throat on fire and my head pounding like a drum. The alarm screamed at 6:30, but I could barely lift my arm to silence it. My entire body ached, and I knew instantly that going to work was impossible. I'd been pushing myself too hard for months, staying late at the office, skipping lunch breaks, doing whatever my boss demanded. Now my body was demanding payment. I reached for my phone and dialed Mr. Harrison's number with shaking fingers. He answered on the third ring, his voice sharp and impatient like always. "This better be important," he snapped before I could even speak. "Mr. Harrison, I'm really sick," I managed to say between coughs. "I need to take a sick day." The silence on the other end lasted 3 long seconds. Then he exploded. "Sick? You're calling in sick on a Tuesday? Do you have any idea how irresponsible that is? We have the quarterly report due today." "I can barely get out of bed," I protested weakly. "Then you're fired," he said coldly. "Consider this your termination. Don't bother coming back." The line went dead. I sat there in bed, phone still pressed to my ear, unable to process what had just happened. After 3 years of loyalty, of sacrificing my health and personal life, I'd been fired for being human. I spent the next hour lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, my fever making everything feel surreal. The reality crashed over me in waves. No job, no income, no security. My savings account had maybe $3,000, enough to cover rent for 2 months if I was careful. My sister Vanessa called around noon. "Hey, I need to talk to you about something," she said, her voice unusually sweet. I should have known something was wrong right then. "I just got fired," I told her, my voice cracking. "Oh." She paused. "Well, that's actually perfect timing. I need you to help me with something important. Can you come over this weekend?" Perfect timing? My life was falling apart and she thought it was convenient. But Vanessa had always been like that, seeing everything through the lens of how it affected her. I agreed anyway, too tired and shocked to argue. After we hung up, I dragged myself to the kitchen and made tea. My hands trembled as I poured the hot water. 3 years of my life, gone with one phone call. Mr. Harrison hadn't even hesitated, hadn't considered my record, hadn't cared that I'd worked through weekends and holidays. But something else stirred inside me beneath the shock and hurt. Something that had been waiting for exactly this moment. The truth was, I hadn't been completely honest with anyone about my life. For the past 4 years, while everyone thought I was just another struggling corporate employee, I'd been building something else entirely. Every night after work, every weekend morning, every spare moment I could find, I'd been pouring my energy into an online business. It started small. I'd created a platform connecting freelance designers with small businesses, taking a small commission on each project. The first year, I made about $15,000. Nothing life-changing, but enough to prove the concept worked. The second year, revenue jumped to $80,000. Last year, I'd cleared $250,000 in profit. Nobody knew. Not my family, not my friends, certainly not Mr. Harrison. I'd kept it secret because I was afraid of judgment, afraid people would tell me I was wasting my time, afraid of failing publicly. My sister Vanessa especially would have mocked me. She worked in marketing at a big firm and never missed a chance to remind me that her salary was double mine. Now, sitting in my tiny apartment with nothing but time ahead of me, I opened my laptop and looked at the dashboard. Active users had grown to 12,000. Pending projects totaled over 300. My business was thriving, practically running itself with the systems I'd built. Maybe getting fired was exactly what I needed. The next few days were harder than I expected. Without the structure of a job, I felt lost. I'd wake up at strange hours, work on my business until exhaustion hit, then collapse into restless sleep. The freedom was terrifying. Self-doubt crept in during the quiet moments. What if this success was temporary? What if I couldn't sustain it? What if my business collapsed next month and I'd have nothing, not even the corporate job I'd hated? I'd scroll through job listings at 2 in the morning, my finger hovering over the apply button, fear making my chest tight. My bank account balance became my obsession. Every dollar counted now. I calculated how long I could survive without a paycheck, how much I needed to withdraw from the business to cover basic expenses. The math was terrifying. On Thursday, I got a message from a competitor. They'd noticed my platform and created something similar. Their site looked slicker, more professional. They had venture capital backing and a team of developers. I had just me, working from a cramped apartment in my pajamas. I closed my laptop and stared at the wall. Maybe everyone was right. Maybe I should have stayed in the corporate world where things were safe and predictable. Maybe building your own business was just a fantasy sold to naive people like me. Friday evening, my mom called. "Vanessa told me you got fired," she said without preamble. "What are you going to do now?" "I'm working on some things," I replied carefully. "Working on what?" "Honey, you need to find another job. You can't just sit around waiting for opportunities to fall into your lap. Your father and I can help with rent for a month or two, but you need to be realistic." Realistic. That word stung. To my family, realistic meant giving up on dreams, settling for security, following the path everyone else took. I'd watched my father work at the same insurance company for 30 years, coming home exhausted and defeated every night. That was realistic. "I have some savings," I lied. "I'll be fine." My best friend Tyler was even worse when we met for coffee on Saturday. "You should call Mr. Harrison and apologize," he suggested seriously. "Explain that you were really sick. Maybe he'll give you another chance." "He fired me for taking a sick day," I said. "Why would I want to work for someone like that?" "Because bills don't care about your pride," Tyler shot back. "This entrepreneurship thing, it's great as a hobby, but you need steady income. We're not kids anymore." I didn't tell him about my business. Looking at his skeptical face, I knew he wouldn't believe it anyway. Nobody would. Monday morning brought unexpected news. A major business podcast had featured my platform in their episode about innovative startups. Within hours, my user registration spiked. New designers and businesses flooded in, and my phone wouldn't stop buzzing with notifications. By noon, I'd made more money than I typically earned in a week at my corporate job. The validation felt incredible, but it also scared me. What if I couldn't handle this growth? What if the system crashed under the load? What if this was just a temporary surge? I spent the entire day monitoring the platform, fixing bugs, responding to messages, barely eating or sleeping. The adrenaline kept me going, but underneath it all ran a current of pure terror. Tuesday, reality hit harder. The money from the podcast surge needed to be split between reinvesting in the business and paying my overdue bills. My landlord had already sent a reminder about rent. My credit card statement showed charges I'd forgotten about. The electric company wanted payment. I sat at my kitchen table with a calculator and 2 pieces of paper, trying to figure out how to make everything work. If I paid all my bills, I'd have nothing left to improve the platform. If I invested in the business, I'd fall behind on rent. The choice felt impossible. Security or growth? Survival or ambition? Realistic or reckless? Wednesday afternoon, my phone rang with a number I recognized too well. "Mr. Harrison." "I hear you've been busy," he said, his tone completely different from our last conversation. Almost friendly. "Look, I may have been hasty last week. You were a valuable employee, and I think we should talk about you coming back." My hand tightened around the phone. "Coming back? Things have changed here. We're short-staffed, and I remembered how reliable you usually were. One sick day shouldn't end a career, right? What do you say?" Part of me wanted to scream at him, to tell him exactly what I thought of his offer. But another part, the scared part that lay awake calculating bills, whispered that this was my safety net. A guaranteed paycheck. Health insurance. Stability. I need to think about it, I heard myself say. Don't think too long, he warned. This offer won't last forever. After hanging up, I sat in silence for an hour. Going back meant giving up on my business, or at least reducing it to a side project again. It meant admitting that everyone was right, that dreams were just dreams. But it also meant security, predictability, not having to choose between rent and business growth. That night, I barely slept. Thursday morning, I made my decision. I called Mr. Harrison back and declined his offer. His surprised silence was almost worth the risk I was taking. You're making a mistake, he said finally. Maybe, I agreed. But it's my mistake to make. I hung up and immediately opened my laptop. If I was going to do this, I needed to go all in. I used my remaining savings to hire 2 part-time contractors, 1 developer and 1 customer service specialist. Together, we started working on expanding the platform to handle international clients. The work was intense. We coded until midnight, tested features at dawn, fixed bugs in between. My tiny apartment became mission control, with 3 laptops running simultaneously, phones buzzing constantly, coffee cups multiplying across every surface. Friday, disaster struck. A major technical glitch corrupted our database during a critical update. For 6 terrifying hours, the entire platform was down. Designers couldn't access their projects. Businesses couldn't make payments. My phone exploded with angry messages. My contractors worked frantically to restore the backup while I handled damage control, responding to every message personally, offering refunds and apologies. By evening, we'd fixed it, but I'd aged 10 years in one day. Welcome to entrepreneurship, my developer joked weakly. I laughed, but it sounded more like crying. Saturday morning, someone knocked on my door at 8. I opened it to find Mr. Harrison standing there in casual clothes, holding 2 coffee cups. Can I come in? He asked, not waiting for an answer as he pushed past me. I stood there in my pajamas, speechless, as he settled onto my couch and looked around my apartment with obvious disapproval. Papers and laptops covered every surface. Empty food containers overflowed the trash. I hadn't cleaned in days. I've been doing some research, he said, setting 1 coffee cup on my cluttered table. You've got something going here. A business. And it's not small. My stomach dropped. How did he find out? I have connections, he continued, reading my expression. I heard about that podcast feature. I looked up your platform. Impressive work, I'll admit. Here's my offer. I invest in your business, bring my expertise and connections, and we take this to the next level together. You get funding and guidance. I get equity. No, I said immediately. He laughed. Don't be foolish. You're in over your head. Look at this place. You're drowning. I'm throwing you a lifeline. I said no. His expression hardened. You'll regret this. You're not cut out for this world. You'll fail, and when you do, don't come crawling back to me. He left, slamming the door behind him. I stood there shaking, coffee growing cold on the table, wondering if I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life. The next 2 weeks tested everything. Revenue fluctuated wildly. Some days brought in thousands, others barely covered server costs. My contractors needed payment. My landlord sent a final notice. My credit card hit its limit. I stopped answering calls from my family. I couldn't bear another conversation about finding a real job. Couldn't handle another person telling me to be realistic. I lived on instant noodles and black coffee, working 18-hour days, watching numbers rise and fall with my stomach in knots. Tuesday morning, I got an email from one of my biggest competitors. They wanted to partner with me, merge our platforms, split revenue. The offer came with a contract guaranteeing me 6 months of income whether the partnership worked or not. 6 months of guaranteed money. The security was intoxicating, but something felt wrong. I read the contract carefully, and buried in the legal language was a clause giving them control over all major decisions. I'd be an employee again, just with a fancier title. I closed the email and stared at my reflection in the dark laptop screen. Who was I becoming? Someone who jumped at the first sign of security? Or someone who believed enough in their vision to take risks? The choice felt impossible again. Thursday afternoon, I received a message from an unknown number. I've been following your work. Can we meet? Normally, I delete suspicious messages, but something made me respond. We arranged to meet at a coffee shop downtown Friday morning. The person who showed up was a woman in her 50s, dressed simply, carrying a worn leather bag. She introduced herself as Ms. Patterson and got straight to business. I believe in what you're building, she said. I want to invest, no strings attached. You keep full control, you make all decisions. I just provide capital and occasional advice if you want it. I stared at her. Why? Because 20 years ago, someone gave me a chance when I was drowning. I built a successful company, sold it, and now I help people like you. People who have vision but need breathing room to execute it. She slid a folder across the table. Inside was a contract offering $50,000 for just 5% equity, with clauses protecting my control over everything. This is too good to be true, I said. It's real. I don't need to control your business. I just want to be part of something meaningful. She smiled. Think about it. No pressure. She left before I could respond. I sat there staring at the contract, afraid to hope, afraid to trust, afraid this would disappear like everything else good in my life. I accepted Ms. Patterson's offer on Monday. The money hit my account Tuesday morning, and for the first time in weeks, I could breathe. I paid my rent, paid my contractors, paid down my credit card. The relief was overwhelming. With the pressure eased, I could focus on actual growth instead of just survival. We expanded the platform, added new features, improved the user interface. Revenue started climbing steadily instead of wildly fluctuating. But Mr. Harrison wouldn't leave me alone. He started showing up at networking events I attended, always watching, always making comments loud enough for others to hear about my little hobby business and how I'd failed at real work. One evening, I logged in to find that several of my best designers had suddenly left the platform. When I called to ask why, one admitted that someone had approached them with offers to work exclusively for a competing platform. The timing was too perfect to be coincidence. Did Mr. Harrison contact you? I asked. The silence told me everything. Sales dipped that week. Not drastically, but enough to notice. Ms. Patterson called to check in, her voice calm and reassuring. Setbacks happen. How you respond matters more than the setback itself. I wanted to believe her, but doubt was creeping back in, whispering that maybe I wasn't cut out for this after all. Friday afternoon, Ms. Patterson invited me to her office. When I arrived, I found myself in a sleek downtown building with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. I want to tell you who I am, she said, gesturing for me to sit. 25 years ago, I started a tech company from my garage. Everyone said I'd fail. My family begged me to get a normal job. I almost gave up a dozen times. She pulled up her company's history on her computer. I recognized the name immediately. It was a major platform that had sold to a tech giant for over $200 million 5 years ago. You built that. I whispered. I did. And I see the same potential in you. Your platform isn't just successful, it's revolutionary. The way you've structured the designer-client relationship, the quality control systems, the community you've built. It's special. She leaned forward. I want to offer you something bigger. Let me help you take this public. Not now, but within 2 years. Build it properly, scale it correctly, then launch an IPO. You could turn this into something massive. My head spun. Public. IPO. Those were concepts for real companies, not someone working from their apartment. I can't, I started. You can. But you have to trust yourself first. That's the hardest part. The following Monday, 3 of my contractors quit. Within hours, I discovered they'd all received job offers from Mr. Harrison's company, with salaries I couldn't match. He called me that evening, his voice smug. Having staffing problems? I did warn you that you weren't cut out for this. The offer still stands, by the way. Sell me your business, I'll give you a job, and we can end this. You're sabotaging me, I said quietly. I'm showing you reality. You're playing in a world you don't understand. Every employee has a price. Every client can be stolen. Every advantage you think you have, I can take away. This is business, and you're not built for it. After hanging up, I sat in the dark for an hour. He was right about one thing. I was losing ground. But he was wrong about everything else. I called an emergency meeting with my remaining team. I know you've probably been approached with better offers, I told them honestly. I can't match corporate salaries right now. But I can offer you equity. Real ownership in something that could be worth millions. They looked at each other. My developer spoke first. We're in. We didn't join for the money anyway. We joined because this matters. The loyalty meant more than they knew. Tuesday morning, I did something I'd been avoiding. I researched Mr. Harrison thoroughly. What I found was illuminating. His company was struggling. Their last 3 quarters showed declining revenue. They'd lost major clients to competitors. He needed my platform not to help me, but to save himself. I wasn't a charity case. I was his lifeline. The realization changed everything. He wasn't attacking me because I was weak. He was attacking me because I was a threat. I called him. I know about your company's financial problems, I said calmly. I know you're desperate. And I know that you're threatened by me because I built something real while you coasted on a reputation. His silence was satisfying. Leave me and my people alone, I continued. Or I'll make sure every potential client and employee knows exactly how desperate you are. You don't have the guts, he snarled. Try me. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but it felt like power instead of fear. That afternoon, I got messages from 2 of the contractors he'd stolen. They wanted to come back. Apparently, his company's culture was toxic, and the promised salaries came with impossible demands. I welcomed them back with open arms. Some bridges are worth rebuilding. Despite the small victories, money became critical again. Expanding internationally meant significant upfront costs. Server upgrades, legal fees, translation services. My business account hemorrhaged money faster than revenue could replenish it. Ms. Patterson's investment was running out. I needed another $50,000 to keep everything running smoothly, but I had maybe $10,000 in accessible funds. The math didn't work. I spent a weekend reviewing every expense, cutting anything non-essential. I negotiated with vendors, delayed some upgrades, pushed some launches back. But even with aggressive cost-cutting, I was short. Monday morning, I considered taking out a business loan. The interest rates were brutal, and failure would mean personal bankruptcy. But what choice did I have? I was filling out the loan application when my phone rang. Unknown number. This is Brandon Cole from Tech Venture Capital, a voice said. We've been watching your platform's growth. We'd like to discuss investment opportunities. My heart stopped. Tech Venture was one of the biggest venture capital firms in the country. They'd funded companies that were now household names. I'm listening, I managed to say. How does $500,000 sound for 15% equity? I nearly dropped the phone. The offer from TechVenture was real. They sent contracts, did their due diligence, and within 2 weeks, I had $500,000 in my business account. But the offer came with a catch I hadn't fully considered. They wanted aggressive growth. They wanted us in 20 countries within a year. They wanted revenue to triple. They wanted an IPO within 3 years. The pressure was immense. My small team became a company of 15 people within a month. We moved from my apartment to a real office. Every day brought new challenges, new decisions, new responsibilities. I barely recognized my life anymore. I wore actual business clothes. I ran meetings. I made hiring decisions. The freelance designers I'd started this for were now just numbers on a dashboard, and that bothered me more than I wanted to admit. One evening, working late in the new office, I found myself crying at my desk. Success felt like drowning in different water. I'd escaped the corporate world only to build my own prison. Ms. Patterson called that night, somehow knowing I needed it. "Growth pain is real," she said gently. "You're mourning who you were while becoming who you need to be." "It gets easier." "Does it?" I asked. "No. But you get stronger." 3 months into the TechVenture partnership, internal conflicts emerged. My original team felt sidelined by new hires. The culture we'd built, scrappy and personal, was being replaced by corporate structures and hierarchies. My developer, the one who'd stayed loyal, quit. "This isn't what I signed up for," he said sadly. "You've become what you ran from." His words haunted me. He was right. In my desperation to succeed, to prove everyone wrong, I'd lost sight of why I started this in the first place. I called an all-hands meeting and told everyone the truth. I've been so focused on growth that I forgot about purpose. We started this to help people, to create opportunities, to build something meaningful. If we're not doing that, we're failing. We restructured. We brought back some of the personal touches we'd lost. We slowed down the expansion to make sure we did it right. TechVenture wasn't thrilled, but I held firm. This was still my company. The changes worked. Employee satisfaction improved. User engagement increased. Revenue didn't triple like TechVenture wanted, but it doubled, which was still incredible. I learned that success isn't just about numbers. It's about staying true to your vision even when everyone wants you to compromise. 6 months after accepting TechVenture's investment, Mr. Harrison appeared at my office. My assistant tried to stop him, but he pushed past her and stormed into my private space. "I have a proposition," he announced, uninvited. "A final offer. I'll match whatever TechVenture gave you, double it actually, for 50% of your company. Equal partners." I leaned back in my chair, studying him. He looked tired, desperate. His company was failing, and he needed my platform to save it. "Why would I do that?" I asked calmly. "Because you need experience. You're making rookie mistakes. I can teach you things that will save you years of stumbling. Plus, my network could open doors you can't even imagine. And you get to control half of everything I built." "Equal partners means equal control," he corrected. I stood up. "Let me tell you something about control, Mr. Harrison. You fired me for being sick because you needed to control everything and everyone. You tried to sabotage my business because you couldn't control me. Now you want half my company because you can't build anything yourself anymore." His face reddened. "The answer is no. It will always be no. Now get out." Mr. Harrison left, but the encounter shook me. That evening, I had dinner with Ms. Patterson and told her everything. "He won't stop," I said. "He sees my success as his failure, and he can't handle it." "Then let him see the full picture," she suggested. "Stop hiding your success. Show everyone exactly what you've built. The idea terrified me. I'd spent years keeping my business secret, afraid of judgment, afraid of failure. Going public with my success meant exposing myself to criticism and jealousy. But she was right. Hiding wasn't protecting me anymore. It was limiting me. I scheduled a press conference for the following week. We'd announce our international expansion, reveal our revenue numbers, and show the world exactly what we'd accomplished. The night before the conference, I couldn't sleep. Tomorrow, everything would change. The little business I'd built in secret would become public knowledge. My family would know. Mr. Harrison would know. Everyone would know. I thought about the scared person I'd been a year ago, fired for taking a sick day, convinced I'd failed at life. That person seemed like a stranger now. Tomorrow, I'd introduce the world to who I'd become. The press conference was held in a hotel ballroom downtown. Media outlets showed up, business reporters, tech journalists, even a few bloggers. Ms. Patterson sat in the front row, smiling encouragingly. I stood at the podium, looking out at the crowd, and told my story. Getting fired for being sick. Building a business in secret. The struggles, the doubts, the moments I almost gave up. And then the success, the revenue numbers, the growth, the future plans. My platform has generated $3.2 million in revenue this year, I announced. We've helped over 50,000 freelance designers find work. We've processed over 1 million projects. And we're just getting started. The room erupted with questions. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted for attention. It was overwhelming and exhilarating. After the conference, my phone exploded with messages. Friends I hadn't heard from in years. Family members suddenly interested in my life. And one text from Mr. Harrison, "Congratulations. You were right. I was wrong." That evening, the story went viral online. Local news picked it up. Business websites featured it. By morning, I had interview requests from major publications. My sister Vanessa called, crying. "Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you let me help you? Would you have believed in me?" I asked gently. Her silence was answer enough. The publicity brought unexpected opportunities. Major companies wanted to partner with us. Universities wanted me to speak to their business students. Investors approached with offers that made Tech Ventures investment look modest. But the most surprising call came from Mr. Harrison. He asked to meet in person, his voice humble in a way I'd never heard before. We met at the same coffee shop where Ms. Patterson had first approached me. He looked older, worn down by failure and regret. "I need to tell you something," he started. "I've been jealous of you since the day you started working for me. You had something I'd lost years ago. Passion. Vision. The ability to see possibilities instead of just problems." I stayed silent, letting him continue. "When you got sick and I fired you, it wasn't about the sick day. It was about control. You were the one employee who didn't need me, and that terrified me. Then when your business started succeeding, it confirmed my worst fear. I'd become irrelevant." He pulled out a check and slid it across the table. "This is what I owe you. Severance pay, back salary, everything. Plus interest. I can't undo what I did, but I can try to make it right." I looked at the check. It was substantial, more than generous. "Keep it," I said, pushing it back. Mr. Harrison stared at me. "What?" "I don't need your money," I explained. "But I do need you to understand something. You taught me what kind of leader not to be. You showed me that control through fear doesn't build loyalty. That success without integrity is worthless. That power without compassion is weakness." Tears filled his eyes. I destroyed my own company because I couldn't let go of control, because I saw everyone as either a threat or a tool. I deserve to fail. Maybe, I agreed. But failure doesn't have to be final. What are you going to do next? I don't know. Start over, I guess. If anyone will hire me. I thought about everything that had brought me to this moment. The fear, the doubt, the nights I almost gave up. And the people who'd helped me, sometimes in unexpected ways. I have a proposition, I said slowly. I'm starting a mentorship program, helping people who want to build businesses but don't know how. I need someone who understands corporate structures, who knows the mistakes to avoid, who can teach the hard lessons. You're offering me a job? He looked stunned. I'm offering you a chance to do something meaningful, to help instead of hurt. The pay isn't great, and you'll have no control. But you'll matter. He wiped his eyes. Why would you do this? Because someone gave me a chance when I was drowning. Time to pay it forward. Mr. Harrison accepted. Watching him teach others, seeing him genuinely care about their success, was like watching someone rediscover their humanity. He'd been so consumed by competition and control that he'd forgotten what actually mattered. My business continued growing, but now we grew with purpose. Every decision was filtered through one question: does this help people? If the answer was no, we didn't do it, regardless of profit potential. TechVenture eventually sold their stake to another investor who understood our vision better. Ms. Patterson remained involved, not as an investor but as a friend and mentor. A year after the press conference, we went public. The IPO valued my company at $80 million. My shares were worth just over $30 million. $30 million. The number was absurd, unimaginable. But it wasn't what mattered most. What mattered was the message I received from a young designer who'd found her first client through my platform. She'd been struggling, ready to give up on her dreams. Now she was building a career. "You saved my life," she wrote. "Thank you for believing in people like me." That message, printed and framed, hangs in my office. It's worth more than all the money in my account. I stood in my new office, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, and thought about the journey. From being fired for taking a sick day to building something that mattered. From hiding my dreams to living them publicly. From fear to freedom. My sister Vanessa had called yesterday, apologizing for years of dismissing my ambitions. My parents had visited, finally understanding that success looks different for everyone. Tyler, my skeptical friend, now asked me for business advice. But the real victory wasn't their approval. It was the knowledge that I'd stayed true to myself when everyone told me to be realistic. That I'd chosen courage over comfort, vision over security, purpose over profit. I thought about Mr. Harrison, now thriving in his role helping others. About Ms. Patterson, who'd given me a chance when I needed it most. About my team, who believed in the mission more than the money. Success isn't about proving people wrong. It's about proving yourself right. It's not about how much money you make, but how much meaning you create. It's not about reaching the destination, but about becoming someone worthy of the journey. I learned that true success comes from staying authentic when the world demands conformity. From being kind when others choose cruelty. From believing in yourself when nobody else does. And that lesson, more than any fortune, was worth the fight. The real treasure wasn't the millions in my account. It was the person I'd become in earning them.